Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this Thursday morning. Lovely to see you, and thank you for being with us for our Bible reflection for today. May I apologise for the last couple of days. I've been chairing a conference for lots of clergy chairs for the last couple of days. I've been a bit tied up, so sorry about that. But today it's good to be back, and we are getting stuck into the book of the prophet Isaiah, and we have a lot to look forward to. And today we're looking at chapter 2, so here we go, Isaiah chapter 2. The word that Isaiah, son of Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In days to come, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be raised above the hills. All the nations shall stream to it. Many people shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall come forth instruction, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between the nations, and shall arbitrate for many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. For you have forsaken the ways of your people, O house of Jacob. Indeed, they are full of diviners from the east, and full of soothsayers like the Philistines. They clasp hands with foreigners. Their land is filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures. Their land is filled with horses, and there is no end to their chariots. Their land is filled with idols. They bow down to the work of their hands, to what their own fingers have made. And so people are humbled, and everyone is brought low. Do not forgive them. Enter into the rock and hide in the dust from the terror of the Lord and from the glory of his majesty. The haughty eyes of people shall be brought low, and the pride of everyone shall be humbled. For the Lord alone will be exalted on that day. For the Lord of hosts has a day against all that's proud and lofty, against all that's lifted up and high, against all the cedars of Lebanon, lofty and lifted up, against all the oaks of Bashan, against all the high mountains and against the lofty hills, against every high tower and against every fortified wall, against all the ships of Tarshish and against all the beautiful craft. The haughtiness of people shall be humbled. The pride of everyone shall be brought low, and the Lord alone will be exalted on that day. The idols shall utterly pass away. Enter the caves of the rocks and the holes of the ground from the terror of the Lord and from the glory of his majesty, when he rises to terrify the earth. On that day, people will throw away to the moles and to the bats their idols of silver and their idols of gold, which they've made for themselves to worship, to enter the caverns of the rocks and the clefts of the crags, from the terror of the Lord and from the glory of his majesty, when he rises to terrify the earth. Turn away from mortals who have only breath in their nostrils. Of what account are they? And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, fascinating chapter, this one, in lots of ways. As we said, we're going to get a lot out of this book of the prophet Isaiah. Verse 1 essentially is like an introduction. Remind us of who Isaiah is and who he's speaking to. The word that Isaiah, son of Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. So here's Isaiah, the prophet, the bloke, talking to the southern kingdom, to Judah and its capital, Jerusalem, if you like, the centre of God's people. And he starts off by saying that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains. And it's quite interesting because the Lord's hill, which is thought of as Mount Zion, is actually, in reality, not very big. But what it's saying here is the day will come when God's mountain shall be raised above all the others. There are bigger hills around Jerusalem, but the Lord's hill will be established as the highest of the mountains. And is it because mountains were thought to be a kind of special place where heaven meets earth kind of thing. And it's saying here that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains. So the day will come when God and God's mountain will be exalted over all the others. And what's interesting actually is that not only will God's mountain be higher than the other mountains, but it will be seen to be higher than the other mountains as well. And as a result, people will come to it. People will say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. So God's house shall be exalted, God's mountain shall be lifted up. And because everyone can see it's lifted up, they just automatically go there. And I do think there's a sense, actually, sometimes in the Christian church when people are just drawn, they're just drawn to something. I've noticed in recent times that more and more people are actually just walking into church, not necessarily because anything that anyone said or some evangelistic campaign or no one's gone to preach the word to them or anything, but people are just coming in, that they're somehow being drawn. And here we have people from the nations around being drawn to God's holy mountain and seeking God's guidance, seeking God's righteousness. That's the number of people that sit in church every day just seeking God. I mean, I'm sure it's increasing. And as a result, from the house of God shall come peace and justice. So because people have gone to God, they've sought his way, he has given them justice. And because he's given them justice, peace and justice flow down. So because of that, they shall beat their swords into plowshares and so on. And notice, this is not hippie peace here. This isn't kind of, just hippiness or whatever. This is actually because of justice, because God's given them justice. Therefore, that's the reason why they can have true peace. This isn't just an absence of conflict. This isn't just throwing weapons for its own sake. Because God has given them peace and justice, that is the reason why they can throw away with the weapons, because they have peace and justice, because they've got it from God. And that, he is where true peace is to be found. And there really is only one way for that. But then you get this plea. O house of, this is verse 5, O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. So you hear Isaiah, saying to the people, come, let us walk in the light of the Lord. The trouble is they haven't done, and they're not doing, and that is the problem. They are relying essentially on themselves, on their riches, on their own military power. So, for example, the land is filled with silver and gold. There is no end to their treasures. They've got treasure in abundance. They think, I'm all right, Jack. They think they're all right because they've got treasure. They think because they're wealthy, they're all right, Jack. Their land is filled with horses and there is no end to their chariots. They think because they've got military power, then they're all right, Jack. They think everything's going to be fine for them. And they're so full of themselves that they bow down to idols, which they themselves have made. So notice the major problem here with the people is pride. They are complacent, they are full of themselves, they're full of what they've gained, they're full of their own power, and they're full of their own achievements. So rather than looking to the treasures that come from God, they seek their own riches. Rather than looking to God for power and God for protection, they wrap themselves up in military force instead. And rather looking to God's wisdom and God's guidance, instead they think they're so blooming good. They bow, instead of bowing down to the one true God, instead they worship things that they themselves have made. And in a sense, my friends, has ever there been a more truer word said to the world today? But that's not the way it's going to be, because the God is going to do something. And he says the people are haughty, and they've got to talk about high things like high mountains, high oaks and high cedars, things, and people having lofty views and looking down on everybody else and thinking, no, I'm all right, I'm up there, everything's fine. And he says himself, because God will be exalted, things are going to be reversed. And instead of them being high and haughty and looking down and proud, instead they're going to throw away their idols, because they're going to go into the crags in the ground, alongside bats and also, I forget the other, was it rat or something, some other animals as well. They're going to, when God comes, their riches aren't going to do them any favours. Their military power won't do them any favours. The idols they themselves have made won't help them, because they can't help them, because they should have looked to God. So instead, the people are going to get rid of all these things. They're going to be hiding in the ground, because when God comes, true power will be demonstrated. And there's a warning here, an advice, that God is the one with the power. And we may think that we are rich. We may think that we are safe and we have military power of our own good. And we think that we are terribly, terribly clever. But the message is that's not the way it is, that we should look to God for our wealth. We should look to God for our protection. We should look to God, and he is the one we should be worshipping. And he says at the end, turn away from mortals who have no breath in their nostrils. For what account are they? Instead, my friends, we need to make sure that we are looking to God, because God is the answer. Friends, I hope you find that helpful. That's Isaiah chapter 2, and there's some great chapters coming up. I hope you found that helpful. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Do please share this message with your friends. Let's make sure that we ourselves are looking to God for our protection. We are looking to God for our wealth and our self-esteem, and we are looking to God as he's the one we should be worshipping. Bless you, my friends. Have a lovely day. Please share this message with your friends, and I'll give you some more tomorrow. God bless you. Bye-bye.